All right, the Boston Celtics get a sweep of the home and home against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Big nights from the starters, big night from the bench. Fun game all around. We're going to dive into that with the morning box score and talk to the resident teacher about his grading scale. Let's check it all out next. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another post-game edition of Green with Envy. As always, is your boy Will Ware checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me, part of the bathrobe gang in here. What do you guys calling yourself these days? The plush pack?
The plushie pack.
The plushie pack. Okay, that's what I knew. There was a nickname I was missing. The plushie pack, the leader of the plushie pack, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Maneikis. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm just like dying laughing at people that are gonna get really upset over a minus versus a plus in my grading system. It's so funny. Like as I was about to tweet out my grades, I was like agonizing over, do I give somebody a B minus or a B plus? I was like, it's gonna make such a difference for some people when they look at these.
It is.
You can't overthink it. You just got to put the grades out. This is what I did when I was an English teacher back in the day. I kind of graded by feel. I had a little bit of a rubric, but the rubric was more of a general guide. I knew the rubric existed, but I never really looked at the rubric. It was just like, oh yeah, like
it's there.
You could have write a thesis statement. You could have write a thesis statement for like 2 months, and now you wrote a pretty good thesis statement. I'm gonna give you an A.
This is like just in case someone asks you, how do you actually go about doing this? I check the rubric. I got the rubric right here. This is how I break it down, when really it's all vibes and feel, right? So it's gonna be what it is. I'll be the mouth of the people here. We're gonna go through your grades here and see what we got here, see what people disagree with, what people like. But before we do that, just to help set us all up, let's do what we do, and let's cue up a morning box score here. So let me get that music going here. Here we go. Morning box score. Boston Celtics take down the Cleveland Cavaliers 116-107. They sweep a home and home with the Cavaliers, who were one of 3 teams to have a winning record against the Celtics last year. Once again for the Cavs, no Evan Mobley. A little bit disappointing. One of the downsides of these home and homes is that if you're missing a guy for one game, you're probably missing him for both. So disappointing not to see the Cavs at full strength, but nonetheless, Celtics get the win. Let's take a look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell, 31 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 12 of 24 from the field. His backcourt mate, only 8 of 19 from the field, 19 points and 5 turnovers tonight for Darius Garland. Caris LeVert had 26 points off the bench. Jared Allen, 8 points and 10 rebounds. Let's go over to the Celtics. Like I said at the start, all 5 starters in double digits again. So let's go through it. Jaylen Brown, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 10 of 20 from the field overall. Jason Tatum, 9 of 22 from the field, had 27 points, 11 big rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 blocks, including one very emphatic block, on Darius Garland in the fourth quarter. 18 points and 6 rebounds for Kristaps Porzingis. Derek White, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. No shock, stuff in the stat sheet again. 15 points for Drew Holiday to go along with 4 assists. Al Horford, 10 rebounds off the bench, 7 points for him, and just another night for Sam Hauser. If he's playing, just assume he's made at least 3 threes in the game. He did it again, 12th time this season now that Sam Hauser has had 3 or more threes in a game. 3 of 3, 9 points for him. Or 13 games now, excuse me. I can't even keep up with Sam. He's hitting them so many out here. 9 points for him. Celtics have 8 blocks on the night, and they come away with a big victory here over the Cleveland Cavaliers, 116-107. So for us to talk about this, Greg, like we said, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to use your grades as a way for us to go ahead and talk about this game. So let's pull it up. We got it out on Twitter right now. If you want to go double check, if you're listening to us or you're watching us, as we're doing this live, you're going to see it on the screen here. So let's just go player by player here. So the guy you got at the top, I'd say definitively this is your guy above anybody else here on the Celtics. Jaylen Brown gets an A+ tonight. Talk us through it.
I mean, I'm going to ask you a question. Did you feel like he was the best player in the court tonight?
For stretches, because I think Donovan Mitchell for stretches also felt like he was the
For the
best
Celtics. For the
for the
Celtics.
Okay, for the Celtics, yes. For the Celtics, I do agree. Yes, I'll say yes. That's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, with Jaylen, I can't wait till the tracking data comes out to see the potential assists because he had
Mhm.
5 assists, right, in this game. The last play, the kick out to Al Horford off the drive, he didn't get many opportunities in the fourth quarter. I think he only touched the ball like maybe 4 or 5 times in the fourth
Very
quarter.
Tatum heavy in the fourth, yeah.
Very Tatum heavy. We just ran that inverted pick and roll with Tatum and Derek White, just trying to get Tatum in good matchups at the top of the key, which, we talked about this in the last pod. It's kind of tough to just attack from the top of the key against a set defense. Tatum figured it out towards the end, but I was very happy with the way Jaylen played overall. That mid range game is crazy. The little fadeaway that he's got going.
That was on point. The touch was there for that shot
The
tonight.
touch was there. He's making the right read over and over again. I'm just like so happy to see that out of him because for so long he just wasn't seeing the floor, and he's really seeing the floor well. And he's keeping it simple, man. He doesn't have to make the Luka Doncic passes, right? He just needs to make the passes that he needs to make. And when he sees two bodies, he needs to move it to the open guy. There were multiple times where he even had the hockey assist. He kicked it out. Even the first play of the game, kicked it out to Tatum on a great pass. Tatum swung the ball to White for an open slot 3. And Tatum could have taken that first 3, off a great pass from Brown. And he's had that mindset I honestly think he's had this mindset aside from like 1 or 2 games for the last month. I really think I've seen Jaylen Brown playing the best basketball of his life right now, or like best all around basketball of his life. I also love that Jaylen's picking up point guards at half court, the high pickup points. He's putting pressure on the ball. He's setting the tone on defense. So, 2 games in a row, I think sometimes Jaylen, like certain teams he matches up well against. I think the Cavs are a good matchup for him. They don't really have the types of defenders, the handsy physical defenders that give Jaylen problems. So we'll see. I right here I say at the bottom for those of you that are listening on the pod tomorrow. At the bottom of the grades, I said, nice win. Magic on a back-to-back is going to be tough. Big test for Jaylen and his recent uptick. Like, I'm not delusional. I know that tomorrow could be, Jaylen takes 3 steps backwards in the way that he's processing the game against a much more
And in this
physical.
run that he's had, right, the biggest blemish that as someone, if they really wanted to pull it out, would be that second half against Orlando when he was terrible, right?
Exactly.
That would be the thing that they would look to.
Right. So I was really happy with how Jaylen played. Are you with me right now on the idea that Jaylen Brown is like turning the corner in terms of his ability to see the floor and play make?
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot like we talked about recently, is that I just think his patience is improving because he doesn't need to be like you said, doesn't need to be Luka, doesn't need to make these Tyrese Halliburton, type passes. That's not what we need him to be. We need him with all this talent, need him to be able to make the smart pass. Sometimes it's the hockey assist pass, or it's just taking that extra beat about, is this the best pass? Or is this the best play? Excuse me. Because, in recent years, like we talked about, and even Tatum talked about post game last game about how everyone's kind of taking a little bit back for the betterment of the team. Like him and Tatum basically had to score around 30 points every game for the Celtics, or else it was really hard to think about where the rest of those points were going to come from. It's not that hard anymore to really figure out where these points are coming from with this team, and it can come from different sources at different times in different types of lineups, every single night. And so I think for Jaylen, I'd have to really think about this is depending on what stretch we're defining as the best stretch. But I do think that his decision making and his patience is a massive uptick that we are seeing right now. I'm going to be curious, especially if this continues, for the next month or two, when we get to, all-star voting and how that's going to be looked at, because the numbers, if you just look at the numbers, they're going to be down, but they're down for everybody in the Celtics, right? Because of all that talent. So I am curious to see how like the greater NBA is going to look at it. But I do agree that I think Jaylen's playing some really excellent basketball right now.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember if I tweeted it out from my account or from the Green with NBA account. But about maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I tweeted out, Jaylen Brown's playing the best basketball of his life. Don't let your mind trick what your eyes are seeing, because I do think that a lot of people are still kind of holding on, and they have every right to. Jaylen hasn't been a good playmaker throughout his career. The assist to turnover numbers and all that stuff that we all know with Jaylen.
5-2 tonight.
Yeah, 5-2 tonight. And can you, I'm going to quiz you right here, Will. What were
Yeah.
Jaylen's 2 turnovers tonight?
I know one of them was towards the end of the game. He had that baseline pass to Kristaps. We put a little sauce on it, went right through his hands.
Seemed like he thought Kristaps was going to stay in the corner. Kristaps cut,
Yeah,
right?
and then the other one is the one that I think if you're a Jaylen hater, this is the one that's going to stand out to you guys. Pocket pick by I think it was LeVert at right around mid quarter. So I think
Got a
the
little
actually
loose with the
recovered,
handle.
yeah, exactly.
Right. So, I mean, those are the 2 turnovers. Like, gets loose with the handle, one play against a long defender, and LeVert, who's picked his pocket before. That's happened.
And LeVert loves playing the Celtics, man. He put up
He
that 50
does.
piece last year. Tonight, him along with Mitchell were really the ones kind of keeping them, within arm's length for a while. So LeVert it's just one of those teams that he likes to play.
Yeah. And the other one, like I said, like Kristaps, you could have made the argument he should have stayed in the corner and that pass would have been on the money. It said he decided to cut as Jaylen decided to throw the pass. He threw a fastball out to the corner. If he had seen Kristaps cutting, he probably would have taken a little bit off of that. But, 2 turnovers, a great night from Jaylen. Let's move on to Horford. Yeah,
real quick. My favorite Jaylen play was actually the offensive rebound that he had towards the end of the game.
Man.
Kept himself in bounds and then, didn't panic, didn't just fling it out and, got it down to Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, has the wherewithal to put it off the glass high because Jared Allen's coming in for that closeout. But that was a big play where the Celtics were kind of fumbling the bag a little bit on offense as far as getting stagnant, not getting the greatest looks. And so that really, I think there was a 7-point game at that point that either put it to 5-7 or 7-9, but it gave them a little bit more breathing room when it looked like, oh, if Cleveland got that stop right there, got out in transition, like now all of a sudden you're putting yourself in a tough position.
And that's a good point though, Will, because Jaylen, he dominated the ball in the first 3 quarters, right? We trusted Jaylen to make plays and make for himself and for others. In the fourth quarter, it was all Tatum, right? We just said, Tatum, take us home. And he did a good job. We'll get to Tatum in a little bit. But for Jaylen to still make an impact with that offensive rebound was huge, man, because you could have made the argument he deserved more opportunities in that fourth quarter and he didn't really get them. And the one real opportunity he got, he made the pass to Horford that sealed the deal,
Yeah, we're talking about 2 assists right now that were his biggest contributions in that fourth quarter, right?
Yeah, so shout out to Jaylen, man. A plus. Anything else?
Jaylen. Only thing I would say is A plus. I mean, A plus relative to who Jaylen Brown is. It's a really great Jaylen Brown game. I'd probably give it. I mean, it's not. We're not gonna sit here and argue over A minus. I would go A to A minus.
Yeah, you would go A to A minus.
Somewhere around there. I mean, just relative. Jaylen Brown had an excellent game right now tonight. He made second team All NBA last year, right? And so I just think with A plus, there's nothing higher than A plus, right? So I think for it to be A plus, I don't look at that game as like there's nothing else Jaylen could have done better. Like, I mean, he shot 10 of 20, 50%. He shot well from the field. Like, he did everything well, just relative to the fact that I know that there's a next level for Jaylen. I would have given him an A and A minus because I think there's another level for an A plus game should be in a little holier of a grail for guys like him and Tatum. That's my only thing. That's it.
And then that's fair. And that's why I was a lot of students' favorite teacher because I was a pretty easy grader.
Yeah. Well, we're finding out why. Hopefully they're tuning in here and they're like, oh man, I'm not as good as I thought I was.
all of these grades are what the game. It's like graded on that singular game. I'm not necessarily grading them against each other. One time I put out like I'm grading them relative to the expectations and what their role was in that game. And I think Jaylen, and oftentimes the A pluses go to the guys that I think were the best players on the court that night.
Well, this is a good transition. Let's go to Horford because you also gave Horford an A plus, and this is one I actually agree with. Like this is where relative to Horford's role and expectation, him being 9 points, 10 rebounds. Only 7 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, but just playing great defense all night, being active, being a connector. Horford was just basically in the right position almost every time. You and I talk a lot about how we look at a game is, do I agree with their decisions they make? I think every decision Horford made tonight was probably the correct one. And so therefore, when I look at Horford with an A plus, this I think to me makes more sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's just funny to me when like you can look at a role player like Horford and grade him like on his role and what the game needed. And then you look at Jaylen and you're like, I'm not going to give an A plus. Like, what else did you want Jaylen to do tonight? But I think Horford was awesome, man. Those rebounds were unbelievable. The aggressiveness that Horford is playing with on the defensive end and on the boards is something that you don't see consistently out of Horford. You'll have some games just like Al Horford had 3 rebounds. Like, how the hell did that happen, dude? Like, you're
Yeah.
one of the biggest guys in the court and you're one of the strongest guys in the court. You need to get the ball. And I think with Horford, one thing I really like about him in terms of like buying into his role and being an A+ 6-man, second big, however you want to define him, is what he knows when it's his time to come out of the game, right?
Mhm.
There was 5 minutes left in the game. He was playing great. Porzingis goes to the scorer's table. Horford just like pretty much beelines it to the bench. He's like, I did my thing. I'm going back to my role, sitting on the bench. I'm going to be a good teammate. And then he gets in the game at the very end when Porzingis came out of the game the last minute, hits the final 3 to seal the deal. So like that's the type of shit as a coach that I
Mhm.
would be like, I need that out of you, Al Horford, right?
Yeah.
The way that you are handling the expectations that are put in front of you, I love that shit. So I'm also grading on like the intangibles with Horford because I think those intangibles are so important.
And a guy like that just makes this bevy of talent you have so much easier to manage when, they talk about that, the meeting the 6 of them had. And Horford's like, yeah, I'll go to the bench. Never done it before in 17 years, been a 5-time All-Star, been all NBA, but yeah, sure, whatever. I'll be that guy because that's what we need. And you see him take to it. And now that he's got his rhythm after it took him a few games beginning of the year to get there, it's all good. And Al Horford, he's one of the leaders of this team for a reason. Let's go to the next guy. Let's stay with the bigs. Kristaps Porzingis, A-. Tell us about it.
Yeah, and this is one of those where like I was kind of debating between an A and an A- with Porzingis. I liked a lot of what he did on the defensive end. I think that they made some adjustments to the level in which they were playing their drop defense. So when they were in drop, I think they were in drop a lot less than they were in the last game because of their matchups that they decided to go with. Like they had Porzingis start the game on Dean Wade instead of on Jared Allen. So Tatum was on Allen early in the game,
Mhm.
which kind of negated the need for the drop
Yeah, that's a
defense.
great move by Missoula.
Yeah, and those little things were great. Porzingis, he mentioned how he's not that comfortable playing in a deep drop. I think that was one of the quotes that came out after the last game because it's you're putting the big in a very difficult position if you're in a deep drop. He's like
Especially
getting
with the guards the Cavs have.
right. So they just changed the level of that drop, right? They probably brought the not quite to the level of the screen, but they were probably 2 steps closer to the ball, closer to the 3-point line than they were in the previous game. So I think Porzingis did a really good job moving his feet. He got caught a couple times. I think Okoro got him a few times.
Mhm.
LeVert got him a few times. That's going to happen, man. You're a big guy.
Yeah.
I think you can do what you can do. And Porzingis is big. He can move his feet decently and he can just like have his hands up in the air and try and
Use your
contest
length,
shots.
right? Use
Yeah,
your length, whether they step back and take a shot or they try to beat you off the dribble, try to contest it from behind. Like, I mean, people that expect that to be perfect are just so irrational. Like, it's
Mhm.
going to happen. These dudes, I mean, Darius Garland's one of the quickest guys in the entire NBA. Like, there was a
Right.
move he made in the first quarter that was like, holy shit. He turned it into like a Dirk jumper off the dribble, like snake in the screen. I don't know what the fuck it was. It was nuts.
Dude,
But
it's so
like
funny listening to Mike Gorman, like, watch Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Like, we just had Mike on the pod, and, like, he doesn't go to the away games anymore, so
yeah.
he doesn't really see these guys, I don't think he's necessarily, like, studying the game anymore. Mike's showing
Mhm.
up and doing his job, right? Scal's the guy that's studying the
Yeah,
game,
he's not
and, like
league passing it every night, 3 screens, looking at I mean, Scal's hosting a daily talk show as well, so
right.
Scal's doing the Celtics, and he's watching a whole bunch of other
Right,
basketball
and
games
he's
too.
just watching Garland and Mitchell, and multiple times, he was like, "Whoa," like, it was, like, too fast for his eyes to understand what was happening on the
They're like
court.
aliens out there to him.
It was so funny. But with
Let's
Porzingis, like, the fact that he's in the A range to me,
yeah,
he was very aggressive on offense. I think he got to the line, what was it, 7 times tonight? 9 times?
8 times, 7 of 8
8
from the line tonight, yeah.
Okay, 7 of 8 from the line. He was willing to shoot the rock from 3. So much of what he does is just his spacing that he creates on the floor
Dude, I
opens
was
the game
thinking
up for
actually,
other
he's
guys in the squad.
I think at one point in the game, one of his threes was like actually from like right at the line, but it's so rare to see Kristaps shoot a 3 right at the 3-point line. He's almost always 3 to 5 feet behind the line.
Yeah.
And, even when he doesn't make it, this is part of the, keeping the defense honest and how much gravity he's pulling away because they're not just going to be like, oh, that's cool. We're cool with him doing that. Right. So
Mhm.
even when he misses, it's still a positive factor for this offense.
Right,
Uh,
and then, one play that stands out to me in terms of the spacing and the conundrum that is guarding Kristaps Porzingis in a two-man action is the Jaylen dunk that he had in the first half, right?
yeah.
It was the Jaylen Porzingis pick and roll. Jaylen kind of just like hesitated at the elbow for a split second as Jared Allen had to make a decision. Is he going to run out to Porzingis for the pop pass, or is he going to stay and hang by the basket? He takes a half step towards Porzingis. Right. Jaylen times that perfectly, explodes to the basket for the dunk. That's all Porzingis. You know what I mean? It was a great read by Jaylen, but that read doesn't happen if you don't have Porzingis on the
the
court.
impact of Porzingis, right?
So I think with him, even though like there were some things with Porzingis, like in the short roll, I think he's a little clumsy in the short roll, and we haven't quite figured out how to get him the rock there where he feels comfortable without the weak side guard sliding over and knocking the ball away. It's happened a few times tonight. I'm grading also on the impact that he had in the game with Porzingis. So A-. You feel good about that?
Yeah, that's fine. Would have gone B+, but yeah, A- is cool. Let's go to Sam Hauser. This is probably a quick one. He got an A-, 3 of 3, 9 points for him, 1 assist. I mean, I feel like for me, Hauser's pretty simple, right? If he's knocking down the threes, he's already in the B+, A- range by default. And then it's just, do you get maybe, a couple of key cuts, couple of, big rebounds, weak side rebounds that propel him to an A+ type range. But 3 of 3 tonight, I mean, it seems Sam's just doing his job. I mean, it feels like he hasn't missed, he hasn't gone, under 50-60% from 3 in a game in weeks right now.
Yeah, he's automatic. I think with him, the reason why I gave him an A- is just like he didn't make the impact on the boards. He got beat off the dribble a few more times, and we're kind of used to seeing Hauser get beat off the dribble. LeVert went by him like he wasn't even there. Darius Garland crossed him up, but Darius Garland crosses everybody up as we said. So that's the only reason he didn't get an A. Is like Hauser does do a lot more than just shoot the rock, and he didn't do quite as much. But the shooting was money. Drew Holiday. His defense, man, he's such a good defender, bro. He's such a good defender. When he's not on the court, the level of defense drops off, right? That's just how I feel when I see Drew come off the court. There's still some stuff. I really disagree with you bringing up the ghost of Malcolm Brogdon. I saw you tweet that out about how the Holiday's finishing numbers. Malcolm Brogdon missed every fucking left-hand layup he took last year. It was like really hard to watch Malcolm.
I'm just saying it's similar to at the rim. We have a new guard having issues with scoring the basketball near the rim. It's not the exact same problem, but it's in that sense.
Dude,
that
Brogdon drove me crazy with his inability to finish. I'm not going crazy with Drew not being able to finish at the rim.
Well, because we don't need Drew to do it. Like Brogdon, we needed to do it because he was what Porzingis is now, which was the third scorer. So it was more maddening. Whereas Holiday had a really nice offensive night. And I think that's one thing that I'm tracking because I still think Holiday on offense at times, it's still kind of a janky fit as to where he's meant to be, where he's going to go get his. And I thought tonight it all kind of fit really well. And so sometimes when you do see him in the post or, at the rim and miss those shots, like, oh, well, that was it. But it's okay because Derek White's hitting threes. It's okay because Jaylen Brown has 22 points. It's okay because Kristaps is making such a massive impact. And then Drew Holiday is basically Ed Reed on defense.
Oh, dude, that's great. He is Ed Reed on defense. Absolutely. Yeah. So if I was grading Holiday on his defensive impact, I'd give him an A. Offensively, I'd probably give him like a B-. In the way
this was a better night for him offensively, but yeah, I think B+ is fine.
Yeah. I mean, in the B range is good.
Yeah.
I think C, like, I don't want to go into my criteria too much.
We gotta hide the rubric. We can't have everybody knowing the rubric.
Yeah. So Holiday gets a B+. Let's move on to Derek White. So Derek White, he was a little uncharacteristic with some of the turnovers tonight, like that one play where he had the fast break with Tatum and he just threw the ball back to Garland. I also think that was on Tatum to give the ball to White in the first place. I think Tatum should have just went up and dunked it like he did later in the game. Twice Tatum had fast break opportunities later in the game where he could have made a similar decision and he decided to just dunk the ball because he's 6'10" and he's Jason Tatum. Like, just go dunk the fucking ball, dude. So, White had a few, I think he had 3 turnovers tonight.
3 turnovers. He had the 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, but did have the 3 turnovers.
Right. And I think that there were a few opportunities, and some of it is just like the Celtics not being willing to give the keys to Derek White a little bit more than I think we all want. Like, I want Derek White to have the ball a little bit more, but it was cool that they went to the 2-man action in the fourth quarter. It was basically Tatum and White. Like, that was their 2-man game down the stretch, which was interesting because we've talked a lot about Derek White in the short roll. I just mentioned how Porzingis in the short roll is a little clumsy. Derek White is not clumsy in the short roll. He's going to make great decisions, and they're guarding Derek White because of the size on the court. Derek White's being guarded by a small person, right? So if it's Darius Garland covering Derek White, you're going to try and get Darius Garland in the action, and you have a great short role player in Derek White. So, I think you could make the argument White deserved to B+, just like Holiday. I've come to expect, like, you're talking about Jaylen being an A+. You think Jaylen's A+ games are more than what we saw tonight. Like, I think Derek White's A games are more than what we saw tonight. I think this was a B game. He was good. Derek White was good. He added a lot to the court. I think he could have done more. I wouldn't give him an A for the night, but that's because the standard for Derek White is continuing to rise.
Yeah, 14, 5, 3 and 3 is a B game. I'm not disagreeing. Like I think it's very similar to what how you said how I view Jaylen. It's just like Derek White has a higher expectation now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like when he does have, and this was if you listen to Chris Stapps on the JJ Redick podcast, Oh Man the Three, this is the thing where he was like, it drives me nuts when Derek makes the wrong decision because he 9 times out of 10 makes the right decision. And there were, like you said, like 2 or 3 instances tonight where it was like, Derek White's a little off. He made one wrong decision, but then filled the stat sheet with everything else. But that's more a testament to just who Derek White is now.
I don't know if you heard this on the broadcast, but Derek White was like kind of struggling a little bit. I think it was in the late third quarter, early fourth quarter, and you just heard somebody go, "Let's go, D White!" Like from the crowd, like somebody like recognized his body language wasn't great, and they tried to like pick him up because they were like, "Derek White, like you're Derek White, man. Just be you.
Just be Derek White, yeah.
Just be Derek White, and we're gonna be fine, man." Okay, let's get to the MVP. Let's get to Jason Tatum.
Let's get to Tatum here.
So up until the fourth quarter, I tweeted out right before the fourth quarter, Tatum has been bad all night. If we get a B+ out of him in the fourth quarter, that should be enough to put away the Cavs. That's how I felt. I thought Tatum was terrible up until the fourth quarter. He still settled way too much in that fourth quarter. I think part of it was the scheme, just getting him in isolation at the top of the key against a set defense is tough. Like the step back 3 is kind of the shot that's available there if you're not really probing and trying to take advantage of your size, right? So I think up until the fourth quarter, I probably would have graded Tatum like a D+, maybe a C- for what I expect out of Jason Tatum. So the fact that he was able to take that grade all the way to a B, for me he was all over the glass. He was
11 rebounds.
In the fourth quarter, I would like to see can you check, can you filter by quarter, see what his fourth quarter stats were?
They don't have that filter up yet, but let me see if I can figure it out here. Keep talking.
Okay. Yeah. So he had that great block on Garland. He came out like the first 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. He set a tone.
Then he 6 rebounds in the fourth quarter, 4 on defense, 2 on offense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was
12
points
great too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 12 points, 6 rebounds in the fourth quarter and a block.
That's a way to close it out. Yeah. That's a hell of a way to close it out.
What do you have? 4 free throws in the fourth quarter as well?
4 free throws. Yep.
4 free throws, 2 dunks, right? 2 dunks or layups at the rim. And then how many 3-pointers did he shoot in the fourth? 5?
He was 1 of 4 from 1
of 4.
Not a great 2-game stretch from 3 for Tatum.
He hit his first one, took 3 bad threes in a row. So that was my big issue with Tatum tonight. Is he was settling too much for the 3. I think he ended up 3 for 10 from 3.
He ended up 3 for 10, 5 for 19 in the last 2 games against the Cavs.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just like I've said it a million times, like he gets a big guy on him and he thinks that, I can get this shot off. I just have to like give him a hard jab step. He's going to put his hands down. When he puts his hands down, I'm just going to rise up and shoot the 3. He did that like 4 times tonight against Jared Allen, another 4 times in the last game. Like it's just kind of the shot that he knows he can get off. And he settles for it a little too much. So that was driving me a little crazy. If you were watching the game tonight and that didn't drive you crazy, I think you're wearing some like.
I mean, we kind of had that conversation last episode, right? In the mailbag when we were trying to figure out his 3-point percentages on regardless of whether it's pull-ups or however he's getting to those shots. Yeah. And it's a little bit of that shot selection, which is one area that I wish could get a little bit better. We're nitpicking here, but this guy's an MVP. That's what you do. You find little things that, you still would like to see improvement on. And, I just don't think there needed to be 10 threes tonight from Jason. I haven't watched them all yet, but there didn't need to be 10 threes from Jason Tatum tonight. So I think for me, when he's averaging 7, 8, 9 threes per game, sometimes those need to be 5 or 6. And I think that he needs to be a little bit more cool with that, especially because, and I was thinking about this watching the game because you nailed it with it's just like, dude, you're just dancing around. I know a 3-pointer's coming or it's jab, jab, jab. And he hit a couple of them where he just kept jabbing to death and eventually got, like you said, hand down, got the shot up. I think he hit at least 1 or 2 of those. But he's gotten so good at taking people into the post and then either creating a scoring opportunity for himself or making the right read if they come to double, or just fucking going downhill and getting to the basket. Like he's gotten so good at both of those, and having kind of his own curveball to, oh hey, there's two on me, let me see two, get the ball out to somebody else. Like he's gotten so good at those that I just wish he would go to those more rather than settling. And it doesn't happen every night, so it's not really worth like getting too upset about. But I do think these last two games we saw it quite a bit, and especially where they're without Mobley, that you either only have one guy at the rim you really need to worry about, or that guy's on you and maybe you can get by him, get him in foul trouble. Like I wish that he would kind of go to that a little bit more in a scenario like this.
And even something as simple, because Scal was clamoring for Tatum to get the ball in the post.
Yeah.
When they go to that pick and roll action where Tatum's the screener and they try and get Tatum the ball at the top of the key against a smaller guy, why not just like start that at the foul line at the nail? Like you don't have to pull it all the way to the top of the key. Remember when I feel like it was like 4 or 5 years ago, the Bucks started doing that with Giannis, where they started running that pick and roll with Middleton and just getting Giannis the ball at the nail, and then he was just like impossible to stop. And they don't really like go to that anymore quite as much. I think Tatum could do a lot of damage at the nail, and I would like to see them just at least kind of experiment with that, just like
especially with the shooters we
getting the
have.
ball.
And this gets to the Porzingis part where he's 5 feet behind the 3-point line, right? So if either the bigs on Porzingis, they have to stay out with his gravity, or if they're pinching in, like you're going to leave Porzingis open, or there's, we've talked about this team has a lot of really good cutters. He loves finding Sam Hauser. So I think you're right. I think there's a lot of ways that they could they could enable Jason Tatum in that position and then flow their offense from that. And I especially late, man, because once again, the Celtics played better late, especially defensively these last 2 games. But I still think, like we said, Jaylen Brown kind of bailed them out on one of those Tatum possessions where he ended up taking a long 3, shot clock running down. Jaylen gets the rebound. But if Jaylen doesn't get that rebound, that game all of a sudden is kind of at a teetering point where it's the momentum starting to swing back to the Cavs because the offense got a little stale. So I think late game, I would love to see something like what you're talking about be utilized a bit more, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but Tatum ends up with a B. If I had to grade him out on his fourth quarter performance, I'd give him an A in the fourth. If people are getting mad at me that, I gave him a B for the game. Peyton Pritchard, I give him a B.
He did some little things. It's not going to show up in the stat sheet, really. 3 rebounds, a couple assists, but he did a couple little things out there and
one shot attempt.
Didn't really make any. Yeah, as I say, didn't really make any poor decisions. Right. There's nothing I can look at as like, man, Peyton killed us on insert play here. Right.
Right.
He just didn't really have a lot of opportunities shooting the ball. So it was, it was a pretty average night. And then Lamar Stevens, happy he played. He gets a participation trophy.
He gets a participation trophy. It's like the kid in class where like you're just waiting for him to raise his hand and like ask a question. Yeah. And then he finally asks a question. And it has like kind of nothing to do with what you're talking about, but you're just happy he raised his hand. Like,
yeah, you got to keep him engaged, right?
That's how I feel about Lamar.
How
Stevens.
Excited was Lamar Stevens to get 2 shot attempts tonight?
Oh,
he got 3. He got 3. I forgot he got a dunk too, but he got those 2 3-point attempts. He was 1 of 3 from the field. He had 1 of almost everything: 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, and 3 fouls.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to ask a guy who hasn't played in weeks to go out there and just like make an impact. So I'm just happy that he was on the court and like did okay. Like he's Lamar. I don't have high expectations for Lamar Stevens right now. So I think that it was cool to see him on the court against his old team. He had a couple nice plays. I think he had a dunk at one point.
Yeah, he had a dunk at one point.
Was that off a Horford pass? Maybe
something like that.
Took a 3 and he airballed it at one point, but he's failing himself.
Yeah, hey man, it would have been good vibes if he hit it. Like it would have been a good momentum swing. So
right. Him and Okoro look exactly alike, dude.
Well, that's why the Cavs had to split him up. They're like, dude, none of this is working. We're trying 2 guys who look the same, doing the same. Nothing's working. Yeah. Let's go get Max Strus and see if this works any better. So
no, but I really was happy that Lamar Stevens got on the court because he, they talked about it during the game. They were like, why is Lamar Stevens playing? I was like, Scouts, because fucking Cornette's out, man.
Yeah,
like obviously that's why Lamar Stevens is playing, because Cornette's not playing. Like they didn't mention that one time. That's the reason.
Yeah, like I don't think there's any other reason that he would have been out there. But yeah, hey, good for Lamar Stevens. He got to get out there. Celtics, they get the win, 160 and 107.
For the pod listeners, let me just read the grades one more time, just like
go
all the way through. So Jaylen A+, Horford A+, Porzingis A-, Hauser A-, Holiday B+, White B, Tatum B, Pritchard B, Stevens participation trophy.
There it is. Coach Maneikis, aka what'd they call you, Mr. M?
Mr. M, or just Mr. or Boston.
Mr. M, aka Boston, with the grades for you. Celtics win once again, 116-107, back-to-back Friday night against the Orlando Magic. The vaunted Orlando Magic come to town. Also a Sunday matinee. Greg and Adam will have some coverage for you guys before and or after. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll let you guys know, but we'll have coverage of that Magic home and home series coming up. But that's going to do it for this episode of Green with Envy. Greg, anything special we're going to hear on the way out tonight, or what do the listeners have?
Yeah, you're gonna hear Black Sheep Optimist get this high, but question for you, Will, and this is like production stuff. Am I putting the conversation that you and Adam had after this as part of the pod, the Cornet conversation?
Oh, we probably could have done this off air, but let me think about it. So maybe you guys will hear that conversation. Maybe you won't. We'll have to wait and see.
But right now, you're gonna hear Black Sheep Optimist get this high. Peace,
Peace, y'all.